The marble floors of the Romano mansion echoed with Sophia's footsteps as she hurried through the empty hallway. Her hands shook as she clutched the silver tray, the fine china rattling against the metal surface. She had been working as a maid in this house for only 2 weeks, but she already knew the rules. Keep your head down, do your work, and never speak unless spoken to. Sophia Mendez was 22 years old, with dark hair that she always kept tied back in a neat bun, and brown eyes that held more strength than her small frame suggested. She had taken this job out of desperation. Her younger brother Miguel needed expensive medical treatment, and their family had run out of options. The Romano family paid well, but everyone in the neighborhood knew who they really were. Vincent Romano was the most feared man in the city. At 35, he controlled half the businesses on the East Side and had connections that reached into every corner of the law. His dark suits were always perfectly pressed, his black hair slicked back, and his green eyes could freeze a person's blood with just one look. People said he had never lost his temper because he never needed to. His quiet words carried more weight than other men's shouts. On this particular evening, Sophia was bringing tea to the guest room where Mr. Romano was meeting with several men. She had been told to leave the tray outside the door and knock softly. As she approached the heavy wooden door, she could hear voices inside, but she tried not to listen. She had learned that curiosity was dangerous in this house. Just as she set the tray down and raised her hand to knock, the door suddenly swung open. A large man with a scar across his cheek stepped out, nearly knocking her over. Behind him, she caught a glimpse of Mr. Romano sitting behind a massive desk, his fingers steepled in front of him. The scarred man looked her up and down with cold eyes. "What's this little mouse doing here?" he asked in a rough voice. Sophia's heart pounded as she stepped back. "I brought tea, sir. I was told to—" "Marcus, let her in," came Mr. Romano's voice from inside the room. His tone was calm, but something in it made Sophia's stomach twist with fear. Marcus grabbed her arm and pulled her into the room, the door slamming shut behind her. Sophia found herself standing in front of 3 men who looked like they could snap her in half without thinking twice. But her eyes were drawn to the man behind the desk. Vincent Romano was even more intimidating up close. He studied her face for a long moment, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched on until Sophia felt like she might faint from holding her breath. "You're new," he said finally. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." 2 weeks, Sophia managed to whisper. "And you're Maria Mendez's daughter." Sophia's blood ran cold. How did he know about her mother? Her mother cleaned offices downtown and had never mentioned working for anyone connected to the Romano family. "I asked you a question," Mr. Romano said, his voice dropping lower. "Yes, sir. She's my mother." Mr. Romano leaned back in his chair, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Your mother used to work for my father many years ago. She was very loyal." Sophia didn't understand what he meant, but she nodded anyway. The other men in the room seemed to be waiting for something, their eyes moving between her and their boss. "Tell me, Sophia," Mr. Romano said, and her heart jumped at hearing her name from his lips. "What do you know about loyalty?" The question caught her off guard. I believe in keeping my word, sir, and protecting the people I care about." Interesting. He stood up slowly, his tall frame casting a shadow across the desk. "And what would you do to protect your brother Miguel?" Sophia's knees nearly buckled. How could he possibly know about Miguel? Her brother was only 16 and had been sick for months. The doctor said he needed surgery that would cost more money than their family had ever seen. "Anything," she whispered, and immediately regretted how desperate she sounded. Mr. Romano walked around the desk, stopping just a few feet away from her. This close, she could smell his expensive cologne and see the small scar above his left eyebrow. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear," he said. "You see, Sophia, I find myself in need of someone I can trust, someone who understands the importance of loyalty and family." Sophia's mind raced. What could a man like Vincent Romano possibly need from someone like her? "There's going to be a party here tomorrow night," he continued. "Important people will be coming to my home, people who might not have the best intentions toward my family. I need someone to watch and listen, someone who can move through the house without being noticed." "You want me to spy on your guests?" Sophia asked, her voice barely audible. "I want you to protect what matters to me, just like I'm going to protect what matters to you." His green eyes seemed to look right through her. "Your brother's surgery has been scheduled for next week. The bills will be taken care of." Sophia felt the room spin around her. "I don't understand. Why would you—" "Because your mother once saved my father's life, and the Romano family never forgets a debt." He turned and walked back to his desk. "But now you'll owe me, and I always collect what's owed to me." The weight of his words settled over her like a heavy blanket. Sophia realized she was standing at a crossroads that would change her life forever. On one side was her brother's life and her family's future. On the other side was a world she knew nothing about, controlled by a man who could destroy her with a snap of his fingers. "What exactly do you need me to do?" she asked quietly. Mr. Romano smiled, and this time it reached his eyes, making him look almost handsome, almost human. "Tomorrow night, you'll serve drinks and food to my guests, but you'll also listen to their conversations and report back to me. Some of these men are planning something that could hurt people I care about. And if I say no, then you walk out of here tonight and we never speak again. Your brother's surgery gets postponed indefinitely, and you go back to scraping together pennies while watching him get sicker." Sophia closed her eyes, thinking of Miguel's pale face and weak smile. He had been her responsibility since their father died 3 years ago. Their mother worked 2 jobs, but still couldn't afford the medical bills. "I'll do it," she said, opening her eyes to meet his gaze. "Good." Mr. Romano nodded to Marcus, who moved to open the door. "Maria will give you the details tomorrow. And Sophia?" She turned back to look at him. "Once you're in this world, there's no going back. Make sure you understand that." As Sophia walked back through the empty hallway, her legs felt weak, and her hands trembled even more than before. She had just agreed to enter a world she didn't understand, working for a man who could probably have her killed without anyone ever knowing what happened to her. But Miguel would live, and sometimes that was all that mattered. The next evening came faster than Sophia had hoped. She had barely slept, her mind racing with questions about what she had gotten herself into. As she got dressed in her black maid's uniform, she caught sight of herself in the small mirror above her dresser. Her face looked pale and drawn, but her eyes held a determination that surprised her. The Romano mansion was transformed for the party. Crystal chandeliers blazed with light, flower arrangements filled every corner, and the sound of classical music drifted through the rooms. Sophia had never seen so much wealth and luxury in one place. Maria, the head housekeeper, had given her detailed instructions about which guests to pay attention to. She was to serve drinks in the main drawing room and listen for any mention of shipments, schedules, or meetings. If she heard anything suspicious, she was to remember every word and report back to Mr. Romano at the end of the evening. As the guests began to arrive, Sophia tried to make herself invisible while keeping her ears open. She recognized some faces from newspaper photos, businessmen, politicians, and others who looked like they belonged in Mr. Romano's world. But it was the conversation between 2 men near the fireplace that made her blood run cold. "The shipment comes in Tuesday night," one of them was saying in a low voice. "Romano will never see it coming." The other man nodded. "And you're sure about the warehouse location?" "Pier 47. His men will be expecting a normal delivery, not an ambush." Sophia's hands shook as she refilled their glasses, trying to act casual while her heart pounded. These men were planning something that would hurt Mr. Romano and his people. She now had information that could save lives or start a war. As the evening continued, Sophia gathered more pieces of the puzzle. There was going to be an attack on Tuesday night. Someone was using Mr. Romano's own business operations against him, and she was possibly the only person who could warn him. When the last guest finally left, Sophia found herself once again standing in the hallway, waiting to be summoned to Mr. Romano's office. But this time she wasn't just a scared girl trying to save her brother. She was someone who held information that could change everything. Sophia stood outside Mr. Romano's office door, her palms sweating as she rehearsed what she would tell him. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight, its deep sound echoing through the quiet mansion. Most of the staff had gone home, leaving only a few security guards and herself. The door opened before she could knock, and Marcus appeared, his scarred face showing no emotion. "He's waiting for you," he said, stepping aside. Vincent Romano was standing by the tall windows that overlooked his garden, still wearing his black suit from the party, but with his tie loosened. The moonlight cast shadows across his face, making him look even more dangerous than usual. "Tell me what you heard," he said without turning around. Sophia took a deep breath and recounted every detail she could remember. She told him about the two men by the fireplace, their conversation about Tuesday night, the mention of Pier 47, and the planned ambush. As she spoke, she watched his reflection in the window. His expression never changed, but she could see his hands tighten into fists. When she finished, the room fell silent except for the ticking of a clock on his desk. Finally, he turned to face her, his green eyes studying her face as if he was trying to read her thoughts. "You did well tonight," he said simply. "Better than I expected." "What will you do?" Sophia asked, then immediately worried she had overstepped. Mr. Romano moved to his desk and poured himself a glass of whiskey from a crystal decanter. "That's not your concern. Your job was to listen and report. You've done that." But Sophia couldn't let it go. During the party, she had seen glimpses of the man behind the reputation. He had been polite to the elderly guests, had asked about someone's sick wife, and had even smiled genuinely when a child of one of the guests had wandered into the room. These weren't the actions of a heartless criminal. "Those men seem serious," she said carefully. "They're planning to hurt people." "People get hurt in my world, Sophia. It's the nature of the business." He took a sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving her face. "The question is whether you can live with that knowledge." Sophia thought about Miguel, about the surgery that would save his life, about the money her family desperately needed. But she also thought about the staff members she had met, the guards who had families of their own, and even Mr. Romano himself. "I can live with it," she said quietly, "but I don't like it." Something shifted in his expression, so subtle she almost missed it. "Honesty. That's rare in my line of work." "Mr. Romano?" Sophia began, then stopped. She didn't know how to ask what she wanted to ask. "Vincent," he said. "When we're alone, you can call me Vincent." The informality surprised her. "Vincent, are you going to be in danger on Tuesday night?" He set down his glass and walked closer to her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Are you worried about me, Sophia?" Her cheeks flushed red. Those men seemed confident that their plan would work. What if they know something you don't? Then I'll deal with it." His voice was calm, but she could see something else in his eyes now, something that looked almost like appreciation. "You should go home. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is a new day." Sophia nodded and turned to leave, but his voice stopped her at the door. "Sophia?" When she looked back, he was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Thank you. The next morning, Sophia woke to find an envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a note written in elegant handwriting. Your brother's surgery has been moved to today. A car will pick up your family at 10 a.m. V. Sophia's hands trembled as she read the note. Moving the surgery up meant Miguel would be safe, recovering in the hospital, when whatever was planned for Tuesday night happened. Vincent had protected her family even before she had asked him to. At the hospital, Sophia watched as doctors prepared Miguel for surgery. Her little brother looked so small in the hospital bed, but his eyes were bright with hope for the first time in months. The doctors say this will fix everything, he told her, squeezing her hand. We're really lucky, Sophia. I don't know how you got the money, but I promise I'll pay you back someday. Sophia felt tears sting her eyes. If only he knew the price she had paid for this miracle. Just focus on getting better, okay? As Miguel was wheeled into surgery, Sophia's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Stay at the hospital tonight. Don't come to work. V. Her stomach dropped. If Vincent was telling her to stay away, that meant tonight was going to be even more dangerous than she had thought. The surgery was successful, and by evening, Miguel was awake and talking. Sophia sat by his bedside, trying to focus on his excited chatter about finally being able to play soccer again, but her mind kept wandering to what might be happening at the Romano mansion. Around 10 o'clock, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Vincent's name, which surprised her because she hadn't even known he had her number. Sophia. His voice sounded tense, different from the controlled tone she was used to. Vincent? Is everything okay? I need you to listen carefully. There's been a change in plans. The people targeting me know about you now. They saw you at the party, and someone told them you were asking questions. Sophia's blood went cold. What does that mean? It means you're not safe anymore. After tonight, neither you nor your family can stay in the city. The words hit her like a physical blow. Leave the city? Leave everything they had ever known? I don't understand. I only did what you asked me to do. I know. And that information you gave me probably saved a dozen lives tonight. But there are consequences, Sophia. There are always consequences. She could hear voices in the background, urgent and loud. Something was happening. Vincent, are you in danger right now? I have to go. There's a bag in your apartment. Marcus left it there this afternoon. It has everything you need. Take your family and leave tonight. Wait! Sophia. His voice softened, and for a moment he sounded almost vulnerable. I'm sorry. I never wanted this to happen to you. The line went dead. Sophia stared at her phone, her mind reeling. She looked at Miguel, sleeping peacefully after his surgery, completely unaware that their lives had just been turned upside down again. When she got back to her apartment an hour later, she found the bag Vincent had mentioned. Inside were passports for her entire family, plane tickets to a city 3 states away, and enough cash to start a new life. There was also a letter written in Vincent's careful handwriting. Sophia, it read, by the time you read this, the situation will have been resolved one way or another. Your family's safety is my responsibility now, and I take my responsibilities seriously. The documents in this bag will give you new identities and a fresh start. There's an account set up in your new name with enough money to take care of Miguel's ongoing medical needs and to help you build whatever life you choose. I want you to know that meeting you reminded me that there are still good people in this world. People who do the right thing, even when it's dangerous. People who put family above everything else. You made me remember why I fight to protect what I have. Don't try to contact me. Don't come back to the city. Live your life, Sophia. Be happy. You've earned it. Vincent. Tears ran down Sophia's cheeks as she finished reading. In the space of 3 days, Vincent Romano had saved her brother's life, given her family a future, and then vanished from her world as suddenly as he had entered it. But as she packed their few belongings and prepared to wake her mother with the news that they were leaving, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't really goodbye. People like Vincent Romano didn't just disappear from your life. They left marks that never fully faded. The next morning, as their plane lifted off from the airport, Sophia looked down at the city growing smaller below them. Somewhere down there, Vincent was dealing with the aftermath of whatever had happened the night before. Somewhere down there, he was living in a world of danger and violence that she would never fully understand. But he had protected her. Even though he barely knew her, even though she was nothing more than a maid who had overheard the wrong conversation, he had made sure she and her family would be safe. As the plane flew toward their new life, Sophia closed her eyes and tried to imagine what Vincent might be doing at that moment. She hoped he was safe. She hoped he had survived whatever storm her information had helped him weather. And deep in her heart, she hoped that someday, when enough time had passed and the danger had faded, she might see those intense green eyes again. 3 years had passed since Sofia Mendez had fled the city with her family, but she still woke up some mornings expecting to see the Romano mansion's marble hallways instead of the modest apartment she now called home. Phoenix, Arizona, was nothing like the place they had left behind, all desert sun and dry air instead of rain and concrete. Miguel had grown tall and strong, his health completely restored by the surgery Vincent Romano had paid for. He was now 19, working part-time while finishing college, and had never asked too many questions about why they had left their old life so suddenly. Their mother, Elena, had found work as a seamstress and seemed content to leave the past buried. Sophia herself had enrolled in business school, using the identity Vincent had provided for her. She was now 25, with a degree in accounting and a job at a small firm downtown. She had even dated a few men, though none of them could make her forget the intensity of green eyes that had once looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. She tried not to think about Vincent too often. She had no idea if he was alive or dead, if his business had survived the threats from 3 years ago, or if he ever thought about the maid who had overheard the wrong conversation. But sometimes, late at night, she would remember the sound of his voice saying her name, or the way he had protected her family without asking for anything in return. On a Tuesday morning in September, Sophia's carefully constructed new life came crashing down with a single phone call. "Is this Sofia Mendez?" The voice was unfamiliar, with a slight accent she couldn't place. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Dr. Catherine Walsh. I'm calling from Phoenix General Hospital. We have a patient here who asked us to contact you." Sophia's blood went cold. "Is it my brother? Is Miguel okay?" "No, miss. The patient's name is Vincent Romano. He was brought in last night after a car accident. He's been asking for you." The phone slipped from Sophia's numb fingers and clattered to the floor. Vincent was here, in Phoenix, in the hospital. After 3 years of silence, he had somehow found her. Sophia barely remembered the drive to the hospital. Her hands shook as she approached the information desk, gave Vincent's name, and was directed to the intensive care unit on the 4th floor. The nurse at the ICU desk looked tired but kind. "Mr. Romano has been in and out of consciousness since last night. He suffered a concussion and some internal injuries, but the doctors say he should recover fully. Are you family?" Sophia paused, not sure how to explain her relationship to Vincent. "I'm a friend." The nurse led her down a hallway lined with glass-walled rooms. In the 3rd room on the left, Sophia saw him. Vincent looked smaller than she remembered, lying in the hospital bed with machines beeping around him. His dark hair was streaked with gray at the temples, and there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. But even unconscious, even injured, he still had that same commanding presence that had both terrified and fascinated her. Sophia sat in the chair beside his bed, unsure of what to do or say. Part of her wanted to run, to leave before he woke up and return to the safe life he had given her. But a bigger part of her needed to know why he was here, why he had asked for her after all this time. Around noon, Vincent's eyes fluttered open. For a moment he looked confused, scanning the unfamiliar room. Then his gaze landed on Sophia, and his expression softened into something that looked almost like relief. "You came," he said, his voice rough and weak. "The hospital called me. They said you were asking for me." Sophia leaned forward in her chair. "Vincent, what are you doing in Phoenix? What happened to you?" He struggled to sit up, wincing with pain. "Easy questions first, I guess. I was driving through the city when a truck ran a red light and hit my car. As for what I'm doing here..." He paused, studying her face. "I was looking for you." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. "Looking for me? Why?" "Because 3 years ago, I made a mistake. I sent you away to keep you safe, but I never asked if that's what you wanted." "You saved my family's life," Sophia said quietly. "You gave us a future we never could have had otherwise. And I took away your choice." Vincent's green eyes were intense despite his weakened state. "I've spent the last 3 years cleaning up the mess from that night, making sure the threats against you and your family were eliminated. It's done now, Sophia. You're safe. You can come home if you want to." Sophia felt her world tilting again. "Home? I don't understand. The people who wanted to hurt me, who learned about you, they're no longer a problem. You don't have to hide anymore." He reached for her hand, his touch gentle despite the calluses she remembered. "But I didn't come here just to tell you it was safe to return. I came because I needed to see you again." "Vincent..." Sophia didn't know what to say. 3 years of wondering, of half-forgotten dreams and memories that felt more like fantasies. And here he was, telling her that he had thought about her too. "I know this is crazy," he continued, his thumb tracing circles on her hand. "I know you've built a life here, and you have every right to tell me to leave and never contact you again. But I had to try. I had to tell you that these 3 years without you have been the longest of my life." Sophia looked at their joined hands, her mind racing. The life she had built in Phoenix was good, safe, normal. She had friends, a career, a routine that didn't involve wondering if dangerous men were planning to hurt the people she cared about. But looking at Vincent now, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes that he was trying so hard to hide, Sophia realized that she had never stopped loving him. It was insane. She had known him for only 3 days, years ago. But the connection she had felt then was still there, stronger than ever. "What would it mean?" she asked softly. "If I came back with you?" "It would mean being part of my world for real this time. Not as someone on the outside looking in, but as someone who belongs there. With me." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I won't lie to you, Sophia. My life is still dangerous. There are still people who might try to use you to get to me. But I'm older now, more careful, and I have better security than I did 3 years ago." "What about Miguel? My mother?" "They would be protected too if they wanted to come. Or they could stay here and live safely with my support. Whatever they choose, whatever you choose." Sophia stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the desert landscape she had grown to love. Phoenix had given her peace, but it had never given her passion. She had friends, but no one who made her feel the way Vincent did just by saying her name. "I need time to think," she said finally. "Of course. I'm not going anywhere for a few days anyway." Vincent gestured to the machines around him. "The doctors want to keep me under observation." Over the next 2 days, Sophia visited Vincent every morning and evening. They talked about everything: her life in Phoenix, his business back home, the changes they had both gone through in the past 3 years. She learned that he had restructured his operations to be less dangerous, focusing more on legitimate businesses while still maintaining the respect and power that protected his family. She told him about college, about her job, about Miguel's recovery and their mother's contentment. But she also told him about the loneliness she sometimes felt, the sense that she was waiting for something that might never come. On Thursday evening, as Sophia was preparing to leave the hospital, Vincent caught her hand. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into the small bag of personal belongings the nurses had saved from his car accident. He pulled out a small velvet box and held it out to her. Sophia's heart raced as she opened it, revealing a delicate gold necklace with a pendant in the shape of a phoenix. "I had it made for you 2 years ago," Vincent explained. "I was planning to give it to you when I thought the danger had passed. The phoenix seemed appropriate, something beautiful rising from the ashes of destruction." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she lifted the necklace from the box. "It's beautiful." "Let me put it on you." Sophia sat on the edge of his hospital bed as Vincent's fingers fastened the clasp at the back of her neck. His touch was gentle, careful, and when he was finished, his hands lingered on her shoulders. "Sophia," he said softly, "I know I have no right to ask this after everything that's happened, but I love you. I've loved you since that first night when you chose to warn me instead of staying silent. I've loved you through 3 years of wondering if you were happy, if you thought about me, if you would ever want to see me again." Sophia turned to face him, her heart pounding. "Vincent, You don't have to say anything now," he interrupted. "Just think about it. Think about whether there's room in your heart for a man like me." Sophia looked into his eyes and saw everything she had been missing for 3 years. The intensity, the passion, the feeling that she was the only person in the world who mattered to him in that moment. "I don't need to think about it," she whispered. "There's always been room in my heart for you. The question is whether I'm brave enough to take it." Vincent's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away the tear that had escaped down her cheek. "You're the bravest person I know, Sophia. You saved my life once, just by being honest about what you overheard. You saved it again by reminding me that there's still goodness in the world worth protecting." When Vincent kissed her, Sophia felt like she was coming home after years of being lost. It was gentle at first, tentative, as if he was afraid she might disappear again. But when she kissed him back, putting 3 years of longing into the touch of her lips against his, he deepened the kiss with a passion that made her forget they were in a hospital room. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Sophia made her decision. "I'll come back with you," she said, "but I need to talk to my family first. They deserve to know the truth about our past, and they deserve to choose their own future." Vincent smiled, and this time it reached his eyes completely, transforming his face into something Sophia wanted to memorize forever. "Whatever they decide, we'll make it work." 2 weeks later, Sophia found herself standing in the Romano mansion's hallway once again. But this time she wasn't alone and scared. This time, she was home. Miguel had chosen to stay in Phoenix to finish college, but with the understanding that he would always have a place in Vincent's family. Elena had surprised everyone by choosing to come back, saying that she had never really stopped missing the city where her husband had been born. As Sophia walked through the mansion that had once terrified her, she marveled at how different everything felt. The marble floors no longer echoed with her frightened footsteps. The hallways no longer felt empty and threatening, because this time she belonged here. Vincent was waiting for her in his office, but he wasn't sitting behind the imposing desk like the first time they had met. Instead, he was standing by the windows wearing jeans and a casual shirt that made him look younger and more approachable. "Any regrets?" he asked as she joined him by the window. Sophia looked out at the garden where security guards patrolled discreetly among the flower beds, at the city beyond where she would once again have to be careful about who she trusted and where she went. Then she looked at Vincent, at the man who had loved her enough to let her go and brave enough to come find her when it was safe. "Just one," she said, slipping her arms around his waist. "What's that?" Sophia smiled up at him, the phoenix pendant catching the light around her throat. "I regret that it took us 3 years to find our way back to each other." Vincent pulled her closer, holding her like he never intended to let her go again. "Then let's not waste any more time." As he kissed her again in the golden afternoon light, Sophia knew that she had made the right choice. The life ahead of her wouldn't always be easy or safe, but it would be real. It would be passionate, and it would be with the man who had seen her at her most vulnerable and chosen to protect her rather than use her. Sometimes the most dangerous choice was also the right one. Sometimes coming home meant walking back into the very world you had once fled. And sometimes love was worth any risk, any danger, any sacrifice required to keep it. Sophia Mendez had learned all of these lessons in a hallway 3 years ago when a Mafia boss had commanded that she be brought to his room. Now she was ready to learn what came next,